Today we are here with Dominique Blake. So Dominique is a senior developer with 5 years of experience, specializing in iOS and Flutter. When she is not coding or playing with her three kids, Dominique's enjoy binge watching Grey's Anatomy and cheering the Ohio State Buckeyes. She will going to give us an amazing talk about Flutter. Our talk name is Widgets, Widgets, and More Widgets, an intro to Flutter. So I am passing on to Dominic right now. Have a good session.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, hi guys. I am going to be walking you guys through how to build a app that shows the most popular movies today using the movie database API. And then we'll extend the app by creating a route that the user can navigate to, like this, to see the movie's details. And then finally, we'll modify the app so that it can adapt to the system preferences of light and dark mode. Just to give a little intro, if you guys don't know, Flutter is Google's UI toolkit for building beautiful, natively compiled applications for mobile, web, desktop from a single code base. It is free and it's open source. So I'm going to start by just refreshing and running this project. And while that's running, I'll just go through the structure of what a Flutter project would look like. So you see here we have an Android folder and an iOS folder. What these folders contains are just the needed files to run the project on those specific platforms. Our Dart code, which is what Flutter is written in, is going to live in this lib directory, and that's what we're going to be working on from this workshop. All the apps start with this main function that runs this widget called My App. What's great about Flutter is anything you see visually is a widget, which is great. Here, you can see that My App extends a stateless widget, which makes, again, this app a full widget. You can see that we can start with the Material app, and Material is just a visual design language that's standard for mobile and web. It has our title, our home, which has a scaffold, which contains our app bar. You can see here with the title, and then our body is the everything that's going to hold our widget tree for this home screen. So you can see now it just contains a center widget, which centers whatever the child is horizontally and vertically. And what a widget's main job is to run this build method that describes how the widget's going to look from like the lower level widgets that are returned from it. So we're going to start by looking at this models file I have. And I'm using the movie database API. So what these models are just the interested fields from the popular movies API call. It has a constructor with name parameters that are required, and then a factory constructor that takes in the JSON from the response and parses out the interested fields that we're looking at. So right here, you can see I have a movie object and I also have a movie character object, which we'll see in the details screen. So putting these models to use, we have an API service that has two asynchronous functions, get popular movies and get movie cast. So these just both take the URL, get the response using the HTTP package, and then decodes them and returns the respectable lists. So now that we got the business part out of the way, let's get to the fun part of actually building the app. So first, we're going to start with creating a stateful widget by typing the code snippet stful, which is very helpful. This snippet is available in Visual Studio and Android Studio. We're going to call this one popular movie screens. And what is a stateful widget? Stateful widgets maintain the state of the widget that might change throughout the lifetime of a widget, versus a stateless widget, which we're going to get into a little bit later, that are immutable, meaning that their properties can't change during the lifetime of a widget. Here we're going to use a stateful widget because we're going to update our list of movies as they're fetched from the API. So I'll create a list of movies. And then we're just going to import, oh, let's be singular. There we go. This question mark here just means that it is optional. It's going to start out as null until the list is populated. Next, we're going to put something inside this build method so that we can see what it returns. And then I'm going to save. And we see nothing's happening here because we need to actually replace our body widget. We can see it says hello world here. Replace this with our popular movie screens. And upon save, we can see two things happening. We see that as I saved, our UI did update, and that's called hot reloading, which is one of the great things about Flutter. It will rerun whatever is in the build method. And for this case, since our movies list is optional, it's going to return this circular progress indicator. You can also see that this state has an underscore in both in movies as well. That's just Dart's version of like making it private. So the state is going to be private to this file, and the movies is going to be private to this state object. So let's keep going, and let's actually populate some data by using our API service. So you can see here that I've overridden this method called init state. And what init state is going to do is run whatever inside of here when the this widget actually first runs. So the build will run anytime that the state changes, but init state only runs when the widget itself is initialized. So when I saved here, nothing happens because this popular movie screen is already initialized. And all we need to do is just reload, and then there we go. So now that the movies has populated from the API service, it's not empty. So we come down here, and it's now going to grab just the first movie title. Yeah, so I'm just going to pause there. Are there any questions so far? Okay, awesome. Let's keep going. So now we're going to actually build the list of movies so we can see the full list. So what I'm going to do is replace this center child with a list view builder and click save. And again, since this we already have movies in this array, clicking save will run this builder already, and we see it. This builder factory method allows us to lazily build the list on demand. The list view provides a builder property, an item builder, and that's a factory builder, and a callback specified by this anonymous function that just returns whatever widget is inside. So right now we have just this list of names, and it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look like a presentable mobile app that you could possibly ship. So let's modify it a little bit to give it a little bit more style. So what I'm going to do is create a build movie row method. And instead of having this text child here, we're just going to use that and pass in whatever the movie index is for that specific row. And what list view builder does is, well, the list tile just adds some spacing and makes it look more like a presentable list. And that looks great, but most lists have some dividers. And what Flutter does is it has another factory builder. Instead of just builder, we have a separated. And to fix this error, all we need is to add the required separator builder, which has another anonymous function, and it just returns a child of a divider with a color black. So upon saving, we can see that it adds our divider lines. So what's a movie list without the movie poster? Right now, it's okay, but let's add some images. So what I'm going to do is inside of our movie tile, I'm going to add a leading parameter with the image network, and it's going to grab the image URL and the movie poster path that's in our movie object, and click save. And what that's going to do is fetch and cache the provided images from that URL. So that was simple enough to add images. Again, I'm going to stop here before we get into like the detail screen for any questions. Awesome. Okay, so we have this list of movies. That's great and all, but if you want to know about movies, you need to go into the details a little bit. So what we're going to add now is a new page, or a route, which is called in Flutter, that shows us the movie's details upon clicking on a row. So we're going to add a stateless widget by typing the snippet STLES and naming it movie details screen. And here we can see again, we have this build method, but we don't have a state because stateless widgets don't need to have a state because they're immutable. So then we're going to replace, we'll add in to the build method to return another scaffold, which has our app bar and our body. And for this, we're going to pass in the actual movie that we want to see the details for. So we add that as a parameter, and then add it as a required parameter to our constructor here. Now to actually make it function, because right now if I click, nothing's happening because it doesn't know where to navigate to. So we're going to add an on tap parameter to our list tile. And what this does, it will push onto the navigation stack our material route with our movie screen, and then pass in the movie that we're building that row for. So upon saving, and we click on Save Jurassic World, now we route it to a new page that has our title for the app bar and title for the body. And what's great about using Navigator Push is that it knows that it's on a navigation stack. So we automatically get this nice back button. So far, we've seen scaffold widgets, text widgets, center, list view widgets, and there's so many more widgets. So we're just going to explore a few more as we build out this details screen. So let's start with column. To make the main body of this detail screen, we're going to use a column and replace it with the text. And this column has two children. Again, we've seen the image network, and it's just going to add a height and width so the image is sized. And then we're going to add the movie overview as a text with some text styling, making the font a little bit bigger. And there's another widget called padding, which adds padding to all the sides of this text widget. And upon save, we should see that coming up. Another widget we're going to explore is a bit more complicated than the ones we've been using. It's called a future builder. And this widget builds itself based on the latest snapshot of an interaction with a future. If the snapshot doesn't have data, then it'll build whatever is in the child. And when it does, based on if the snapshot has data, it will build whatever is left. I will show you this now. So if I copy this, add a third child to this column, and need to add our future to this. And what this parameter late does, it just means that sometimes during this building of this widget, this value will be populated, but if you try to access it and it's not populated, you will get a crash. So it's a bit different from an optional. But because I made it a late because we're going to add something to the constructor here. that whenever this movie detail screen is constructed, this value will be populated before the build method. So we're safe to use late here. I'll also add a row here, another widget. So, sorry, let's save that. So the building the character is going to build a column which has 3 children, our image that we've been working with, but instead it's going to grab the profile paths of our cast members from this API service we have here. It's going to round the images and then add the character name and the actual actor's name. So let's go back to the future builder a little bit. The future builder is going to wait for whatever snapshot value based on this future. If it has data, it's going to return a row of our build characters. If it doesn't have data, it's going to return a container, which in Flutter just means like an empty space that doesn't have anything visual on it. So let's click save. And again, we're going to see that we have our 3 actors here, 3 characters in a row with their picture, their character name, and their actual name. So is there any questions here? Is it, are you fetching 16 movies? From this list, it's just the first page of the most popular movies from the movie database API, and it's 20 of them on the first page. Great, we are going to, I can increase the text size. Is that a bit better? Yeah. Awesome. Another widget is a spacer. So what spacer does is put space in between the flexible widgets, such as rows or columns. I could have also used like a sized box that adds a specific amount of spacing. In this case, we have a row, so it will be width, and we put like 10 here. You can see it adjusted just a little, and it'll just add like a size box of 10 pixels to the right, to the left of each of these character widgets in the row. Okay, and one more thing. I personally like apps in dark mode, so this brightness is a bit much for me. So what we're going to do is going to add themes to our app. So if we scroll back up to our main material app, and implementing the system dark mode is super simple. We just add our theme, which is a brightness of light by default, and then our dark theme, which is a brightness of dark, and these are built into Flutter. So even just saving this, going to our simulator, and toggling the appearance automatically gives us dark mode since we're using Flutter's built-in text. And that works on this page as well. Yeah, so that's it for me. I went a little bit quicker than I wanted to. But yeah, is there any questions on that? Anything you guys want me to expand on, go into more details on?
Hello again. Maybe we can start with the Q&A, if it is okay for everyone. So you can drop your questions in the chat box, and I can start with my own questions.
Awesome.
So my first question is, what is your suggestion for the next steps? What resources can you recommend for a beginner to Flutter?
Yeah, one great place is actually pub.dev. Let me see if I can bring up. What pub.dev is a site that has just open source packages for Dart. And I actually used one in this example here called HTTP. And it just allows, there's different packages for many different things. So this one just allows us to use HTTP to make different type of requests. So third-party packages are very accepted inside of Flutter because it is a cross-platform framework, and there may be some things that need to be written in Dart, but then used like in different bridges to talk to the Android or the iOS systems. So don't be afraid to use packages here. But there's many different packages on pub.dev for different things. There's fun ones for charts, different texts, different animations, and things like that. So I would say explore packages. And packages are almost used like widgets most of the time as well. So I would say start there.
Thank you. So my second question is, I'm an Android developer and I want to switch to Flutter. Do you think it is easy to do or it is hard to do?
It's very easy to do. I originally started an iOS developer, so it's a little different getting used to just the structure of using widgets. But once you get used to just like how the widget tree works and everything, it becomes very intuitive and very easy. I know as an iOS developer, it's like very similar to Swift UI. I think Android has something like that. I'm not an Android developer, but yeah, it's very simple. I love the Dart language. It's very easy and intuitive to get used to as well.
Thank you. So where should I start?
I always suggest just starting building like a simple app like we did here today. That's the best way to explore different widgets, explore how API calls work, and just making simple requests like that. Um, Starting with just the basis like this, you can expand to more different type of architectures. There's a lot more complicated things you can get into. But one thing I love about Flutter, it's very just intuitive to start with these 26 lines of code to build a simple app, and that's all you really need to get started.
Amazing, really. Thank you for your answer. So I want to ask another question, my last question. So please let us know your questions, everybody. What kinds of career opportunities are there for someone who learns Flutter?
Yeah, so Flutter has recently passed React Native in the cross-platform development world. So it's become very popular with like early stage startups and companies that are just trying to get like ideas off the ground, MVPs and that nature. A few big apps have started to adopt Flutter as well, but it's much more common in like smaller companies and startups. So there's a lot of opportunities out there as more companies are building apps.
Yes, and the startups are great for learning and developing your skills.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely pushes you. I love working at startups.
Yes. Thank you so much, Dominic. Any other questions? I couldn't see any other questions in the chat box. But maybe we can wait 1 or 2 minutes. If anyone has any questions, please let us know.
Yeah, so the API service is just here. And I'm using a package, like I explained from the pub.dev HTTP. And it just gets the URL, and then I'm parsing basing on if the status code is 200, decoding it using JSON, and then parsing it through from the factory methods in my objects. And go to the objects here. I just have a class or parameters defined on what I'm interested in. These are named parameters in the constructor, which gives me the opportunity to use like ID, title, things of that nature. And then I'm parsing based on the incoming JSON in this factory method. What would your recommended approach be to testing this app? Would you concentrate on unit and integration? I would definitely do like unit tests for the API service and everything, and making sure the models are parsing correctly. But for like the actual UI, I would do more of like integration test type thing to make sure that things are showing up the way they should be. I have not used Firebase Test Lab before, so I don't know what that approach would be. But yeah, definitely a mix of unit and integration for these.
Thank you everyone for your questions. We have another question. How do you mock the APIs? Do we have mock support in Flutter?
Yes, that is actually a package called Mockito, and that's on pub.dev as well. Yeah. And this one's actually built by the Dart team, so the team at Google. So that exists.
Thank you so much, Dominique, for your presentation on Flutter. I learned so much about Flutter in this session, really, in a short period of time. I hope you all too. I had no idea you could do this type of app easily. So thanks again for your presentation. And thank you all for your questions. So see you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the sessions. Thanks again, Dominique.
Thanks.